So director Bryan Singer and 20th Century Fox have decided to give us an alternate version of my favorite film of 2014. This is my special look at the Rogue cut of X-Men: Days of Future Past. So anyone who has seen me talk about this film previously knows that I was completely blown away by X-Men: Days of Future Past. So much so that I saw it twice on opening weekend and put at the top of my best movies of 2014 list, after being very, very skeptical ahead of the release of the film, not knowing how the tone was going to work out, and hearing all the rumors about all the different plot elements that might have been thrown in here and everything. I thought it might have been a very overcomplicated mess, but it obviously turned out to be an incredible film that just completely launched the X-Men franchise into a completely different level, that they're going a much epic type of way. And you did see in a lot of the marketing materials that there are a lot of different pieces of footage and everything that didn't make it into the theatrical cut, and there was a lot of talk from Bryan Singer and everything prior to the theatrical release about what we're going to put in, some things you might cut out, going back and forth a little bit, not entirely certain on opening weekend what exactly we're going to see. But obviously, after the release of the film being a massive success, getting over $700 million at the box office, continuing the franchise on in such a great way now, that Bryan Singer decided, let's put out an alternate version. Let's give the fans of the film all that extra footage that we've been talking about, that they do enjoy, that there's a lot of footage in this that Bryan Singer talks very highly of, that there's a lot of affection for a lot of stuff that did get cut out, and a little bit of back and forth about whether or not he might would have wanted to go back and actually put it back in the theatrical if he had to do it again. But regardless of that, we're talking about an extended version of X-Men: Days of Future Past that is 17 minutes longer than the theatrical, which means there's a whole lot of stuff to get into about stuff that has been added, a little bit of alternate type of footage, and various other things that go along with it. And along the way throughout this cut of the film, there are little minor scene extensions and little bits and pieces added in to kind of like give an extra comedy beat, a little extra line of dialogue here and there that just kind of draws it out and just gives a little something extra that we're probably just cut for pacing reasons, or just trying to make the theatrical runtime as conservative as possible. And you know, a lot of the stuff is probably not entirely necessary to have in the film to drive the narrative or the characters or anything else forward, but it's kind of nice little things to just have a little extra thing there. But the major changes in the film kind of happen early on, that there is a very sort of substantive scene early on where everyone is discussing the idea of sending someone back to alter the past, and is the younger X-Men in the group, such as Bishop and Blink and whatnot, that bring up the argument about it. It's like, we could continue fighting here in this time instead of taking this major risk that is kind of like a do or die situation. If we don't succeed, that's the end of it. But also that you're going back so far in time, that you're altering it at such a far back point in time that predates the birth of a lot of these characters, that you alter the past, these characters, these people might never exist. So it's a very interesting and kind of brings a little bit more to the characters. Like, you don't really get much of anything from Bishop in the film, but it kind of adds just a little something for him. And the younger X-Men have a little bit of weight in the film. But there's also a very good sort of thread that weaves through the whole film now, because you bring in that rogue subplot in the film, that you have a much stronger type of bond between Iceman and Kitty Pryde in this film, that you have little moments here and there that just kind of strengthens their bond overall, that really kind of brings them forward and just kind of solidifies the relationship from the earlier X-Men films. That really kind of, it's nice. You just get a little bit more substance, a little bit more weight, a little something extra with these characters in the future sequences, because there's not a ton cut from the 1973 sequences, but we'll get into that here shortly. But it is in the latter half of the second act of the film now that a lot of the extra footage is jumped back into the film, because you got the entire subplot with Rogue, that after Kitty Pryde gets injured, Iceman brings up the idea of going ahead and rescuing Rogue, who is now being held captive in the old X-Mansion. And it is a sort of plot point that is kind of plugged up for some people, that at the time the film was released, they kind of like, well, Mystique's powers probably shouldn't be able to do everything that these future Sentinels can do. That's because in this version of the film, you get to learn that they are a melding of both Mystique's powers and Rogue's powers, that her ability to absorb everyone else's life force and their mutant powers and everything are integrated into the Sentinels, because they've been experimenting on her for years, using her for research. And they go ahead with Iceman Professor X and Magneto to go rescue her, which comes into a whole slew of other scenes that are added into the film. That in the 1973 sequences, Raven actually goes back to the mansion, and a bit of a subversive type of way that she kind of deceives people, and there's a little bit of betrayal involved there, which kind of disrupts the flow of the film a little bit. That I think this section of the film benefits the future sequences a lot more, because I think I kind of felt a little bit when I saw the film originally and whatnot that maybe the future sequences could have had a little bit more going on, have a little bit more substance to what was going on, instead of just kind of going back and watching them wait and wait. Did you have a little bit of action, a little bit of plot progression, a little bit of turbulence in what they were doing beyond the basics and everything. So I think this section of the film really kind of adds something more to it, because you get a lot more peril. There's sacrifice, there's death, there's just something's changed from what you saw in the theatrical cut of certain people's fate. And just it's a very good sequence. I did like it that the rescue of Rogue is now spectacularly intercut with the young Magneto going into the Pentagon to retrieve his helmet, which also has some extra footage added into it. And I think just on the basis of how it's presented, I think it's excellently intercut and everything, that because you've got the young and old Magnetos involved in this intercut sequence of the past and the future, you create some very good visual parallels, and just like Ottman's editing, it's just so spectacular. I just loved how he put the sequence together. And there's also just like, with this extra footage and extra little plot line and everything, you kind of strengthen some of the plot points of just how the Sentinels end up finding all the X-Men at the end of the film and whatnot in the future. So little things that just add something more, just kind of strengthens everything. It just makes everything a little bit more logical, just flushes out the ideas and makes things connect a little stronger overall. And in the 1973 sequences, you get, like I said, there's extra scenes at the mansion and everything before the everyone goes to Washington. So Raven shows up, and there's a little scene between her and Hank McCoy that I think is really damn good, that you add some more substance between these characters, something that's a little bit tad bit intimate and everything. And there's a little beat with Hank and Logan and whatnot, just kind of talking about little things here and there. But I think like I said, the future sequences do add something more to that end of the film. Really kind of gives a little bit more weight, a little bit more peril, just gives a little bit more sacrifice overall. The little bits and pieces just add something more to the character and the flavor of the film overall. But adding in this sort of disruption and whatnot in the latter half of the second act kind of hampers the flow of the main plot in the past. That it feels like a lot of the scenes you have there just aren't necessary to be there, that everything completely flows and works perfectly in the theatrical cut from when they go and Xavier contacts Raven telepathically and everything at the airport, and then they jump right into this point and then that point and that point, just keep moving on very swiftly. I think that works spectacular with the pacing of the film. And obviously, because now you shift everything over to the future sequence for a certain amount of time, that it just like might feel a little uneven. It's kind of one of those things that, you know, you look at a lot of these directors because they've been around for years, like Blade Runner or Terminator 2, the special edition, or Alien special editions, various other things. You've had a lot of time for these things to settle in and get used to a certain version of the film and how everything's presented. This is all brand new. There's a lot of fresh stuff to really kind of absorb and take in and have it settle in for all the viewers to actually kind of figure out which one kind of works the best, which one's going to kind of, over time, which one's going to settle in and be the preferred version of people, and which one is really kind of flow the best for everyone. That you see a lot of new stuff. It is it takes you out of the film just for a tad bit. That's like, oh, now there's new stuff. I'm going to pay extra close attention to this. So it's a little bit of that experience that you kind of gotta get used to some of this stuff just because it's brand new. It's just different and everything. And of course, when they decided exactly what was going to be in the theatrical version, what they were going to cut out, they actually had to obviously do reshoots and kind of plug up little plot points here and there and kind of streamline things a little bit. So as the film goes on past that point in the road cut with all the extra footage and alternate stuff going on, that there's, again, still alternate little bits and pieces in the climax of the full film in the future sequences. So things play out just a tad bit different, but not dramatic or whatnot. This is not saying that radically alters the storyline or anything. Just these little things are different because these were the original choices made for the creative flow of the whole film, so certain characters aren't present there or things play out just a tad bit differently. So there's still little bits and pieces as the film goes along, and there's even kind of a nice little mid-credits beat added into the road cut that I just found a little slightly amusing. So just stick around for a minute or two after the credits begin. Get a little something that you might a little chuckle at. But I think in general, I thought the road cut it did work. I like the whole thing. Just again, it's one of those things you got to take some time to really kind of let it settle in and kind of fester your mind and everything. But I thought it was still a good cut that brought a lot of extra substance, extra weight to the whole thing. Add a little extra moments of humor and emotion and drama too. That it builds some of the characters a little bit better, gives a little bit more balance to everyone that's in the film because there's such a large cast of characters here. You just get a little bit more extension on some of these characters that add a little bit more into what they had to contribute to the story overall. So it just adds something more that I think it is. Obviously, watching the whole film, it does have a lot of like Terminator allegories, the whole time travel stuff and the robots and everything. Really can't help but think about the Terminator 2 Special Edition that also has a lot of extra scenes with a lot more emotional substance, stuff like that, and maybe little bits and pieces here and there. That it's both versions of that film, theatrical and Special Edition, are both solid versions of the film, just depending on what you like, or something that's a little bit more better paced, or something that's a little bit more deeper, a little bit more stretched out, a little bit more added substance. So probably the closest thing I can offer to you guys that is similar to like the T2 Special Edition, that it adds something more to it, but it's not something that kind of alters the flow of the film. It doesn't alter the direction of the narrative, but it adds something more on top of what you already enjoyed with the film, which was already great to begin with, in my opinion. So I definitely recommend checking it out. Even if you just want to get the digital download or whatnot, I would definitely suggest going to see it. But I'm covering the whole Blu-ray set here, so let's continue on and talk about the fact that we got a couple of audio commentaries on this thing for both the theatrical version and the road cut, which the theatrical cut is definitely the stronger commentary, because you got Bryan Singer and screenwriter Simon Kinberg really kind of doing a proper scene-specific commentary, that they're really talking about exactly what's going on the screen, what all the behind the scenes were and everything. They were very much lively, very much into it. They're just talking very constantly throughout the whole thing. I thought it was very, very entertaining and insightful, and just got a lot of substance from it. And the commentary on the road cut between Singer and John Ottman is a little bit more specific just to the differences and the choices that they made between the two different cuts of the film, why they cut something out from the theatrical and put it back in here, or maybe something they kind of like double think about, would have wanted to put back in the theatrical cut if they had to do it again. But it's just a lot more dead air in the certain places that they're just kind of waiting for maybe a certain something to come up on screen to comment about, instead of kind of like continually going on and on about things. So it's still very insightful. That was the first commentary I listened to, and then I listened to one with Kinberg, which was just like a lot more substance to it. But I thought both of them really add something to the experience obviously for the different cuts of the film. Theatrical cut commentary just talks all over the place about everything with the film. With the road cut is a little bit more specific to the decisions made in making that version, with a few other tidbits here and there and everything. But the real meaty part of this whole thing is a really damn good, probably about an hour-long feature documentary about the whole film. It goes through the entire spectrum of the whole thing, from the development of the whole thing, exactly what they wanted to do, developing and adapting the screenplay, with little appearance from comic book writers Len Wein and Chris Claremont, who are very much vital to the history of the X-Men and comics. And they just talk very much about the development of the film, the cast of the whole thing, a lot with the visual effects. I love that they talk and show a lot of footage about how they achieved the Quicksilver sequence, with him running around the room and everything, taking out all the security guards and all that. They did a really good job, and just really got into the meat of a lot of different things, and a lot of good things with how they talked with John Ottman about how he edited the film, the process him and Singer went through on that, and just how the relationship between him being editor and composer, how there's such compatible things, how they both work with rhythm and pacing and all this type of stuff. I thought there was a lot of substance there in this whole documentary that just gets you really into the thick of things. And just, it's good that this is also being produced sort of like at the cusp of the production of X-Men Apocalypse, because they kind of get into a tad bit, nothing spoiler or anything, but just kind of like the ideas, the inception, where things are going to lead to next, just a little bit. So it's like, it's a good point in time to just kind of have it in this middle ground between the two films, that you get to look back on the one film and you kind of get a little bit of look forward into the next film. So no footage or whatnot, but they just talk a little bit about the progression of the franchise, the progression of the characters from one point to the next point. So it's like, it's a really damn good set. It moves by really, really well. They edited this thing exquisitely well, and there's a really damn good sort of sit-down, sort of roundtable discussion with the entire cast of the film, along with Bryan Singer and Simon Kinberg. There's like 30 minutes of them just kind of very loose type of laid-back sort of discussion between all the cast members and everything, just kind of just loose, laid back. Just, it's very insightful, and it's kind of slightly intimate too. Just get a lot of just good information from that. They did a little sort of personal camaraderie and the insights and all this type of stuff they have with their characters and the X-Men franchise in general and all this type of stuff. Just the approaches to everything, and just, it was very, very enjoyable just seeing these people just kind of in this type of environment, just talking casually and everything. Just, it's very nice. I very much enjoyed it, and it's the fact that this is all exclusive content to this release of the film, because all the content you saw on the original release, the original Blu-ray and everything, that is all exclusive to that version. None of that's carried over. They're two separate releases with their own exclusive content, so all the featurettes and the deleted scenes from the first release are not anywhere present on this one. That anything that you saw deleted on the features in the original release of X-Men Days of Future Past is not present in this cut. It's all exclusively, that stuff was cut and staying cut out of the film. And all the extra featurettes and the trailers and everything, that's all on the original Blu-ray release and such. I only have this metal pack, which is just a special packaging version of the standard Blu-ray release, and there is no Blu-ray 3D version. Some people might not like that. Regardless, that still creates a exclusivity to various versions and releases of the film, that you're not just getting everything ported over, that if you've already bought it, you're not getting the same exact stuff over and over again. You're getting brand new content that is exclusive to this release, that is put together in such very strong type of ways. I just thought all the featurettes, the documentaries, everything just was really exceptionally well put together. Just gave you a whole lot of information that just will really appease you very well. I just thought how they went through every phase of production and broke it down in this sort of hour-long documentary was just really engaging. And I thought just overall just a very well put together package. And you also get a digital HD download for the film, and that's really good stuff, because that's of the road cut itself, not the theatrical. If you got the original Blu-ray, you already got the theatrical download. Now you also get the road cut download. So I think it was a good set. I really enjoyed it. I went through all the content on this thing. I really enjoyed every bit of it. I watched the film. I watched the road cut, then I watched the commentary, and then I watched the other commentary, watched all the featurettes. So I got all through this stuff in less than a day, and it was all enjoyable. I really enjoyed it. I watched the film basically 3 times in a row, and I still enjoyed every bit of it. So it's like, I love this film. I really do. Just like watching it again, it's like it's got all the right balance of tones and everything. I just love how there's so much great drama, so much great emotion, but there's so much fun beats in the film that works everything so perfectly in my view. I thought they adapted the comic book storyline perfectly to the world they created in this cinematic series and everything. So I'm not going to go on and on about it, but basically I think everything just struck on the right chords. And I think the road cut just adds a little bit extra in there to dig a little further deeper into things, give a little extra action in the film. But let's just say, really delivers. I think it's a really good cut of the film that obviously, like I said, it'll take a certain amount of time for everything to really settle in and just like decide exactly which version that you prefer. But I don't think at this moment in time, I think the theatrical does have the best, tightest pacing, obviously, but the road cut just adds so much more depth and substance, little extra things here and there that you might enjoy, but some of the stuff you might seem a little extraneous, not necessary to have in there. But overall, I think it's worthwhile. You get a good price on this. I definitely say pick it up. It's a nice 2-disc set with the film and the commentaries on 1 disc and all the documentaries and everything on the 2nd disc. So it's selling at a really good price right now, so I would definitely suggest picking it up. I really do. I think if you love the film theatrically, I think you'll really enjoy the new cut of the film, just seeing the extra footage and how it flows together throughout the whole film. I think it's a good cut. I think it works well. And I'm definitely excited to see how X-Men Apocalypse might top this thing. And excited. I'm excited. I think this is a franchise that is really just on a fantastic rise right now, and it's got my full confidence and support. So next May we're getting X-Men Apocalypse, and I really can't wait to see it. But post your comments below. If you guys seen the road cut of this thing, I'd definitely like to see what you guys think of it. Do you think it's superior? Do you think it's a strong cut? Do you think it kind of throws off the pacing or the focus or whatnot a little bit from the narrative overall, the importance of it? Just let me know what you think, because I think it's worthwhile to see. So that's basically all I got for you guys at this time. Thanks for checking things out. If you liked what you saw here, a thumbs up on that screen below would definitely be thankful. And share the links around if you want to get more people a little bit insight into this version of the film. Definitely do so, and I'll be back as soon as I can with something new and fresh and exciting. So take care, and bye-bye.